AJ Knight is a short for Arrow J. Knight. That is the name that I write under. And in creating Arrow J. Knight, I created a pseudonym that really talks to a work of body that has its own flair for life. I am the creator of Jericho's Bane. Right now I'm up to 3 novels. Haven't released the 3rd one yet, but it is complete and will be released at the end of the year. The inspiration for the novel, of course, was just all the questions that you have when your parents are dragging you to church kicking and screaming when you're younger. My parents were really big on me reading when I was young. I remember the first thing that I can remember about reading was Bill Cosby's show Picture Page. And I remember Picture Page, and my parents bought me the little box of books to work along with Bill Cosby and a little bumblebee pen that would make noise. And that led to Dr. Seuss, which further ended up eventually leading to Lord of the Flies, and then my all-time childhood favorite, Lord of the Rings. After that, I was hooked on books. Anything Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, Stephen King, I was digesting and eating it. And from the love of reading and watching a plethora of 80s movies, I became a storyteller by oration and not by writing. That came later. So I was a storyteller verbally first before it went to the written word. Poetry. And I was definitely the guy, it's not a poem if it doesn't rhyme. But when I would write poetry, it always kind of leaned towards the spiritual and biblical because that's what my parents drugged me Sunday through Friday. After poetry, my very first written work was a short that I wrote about someone who had died and had to stand in a really long line equivalent to that of Disney World. And through a series of him transversing these lines, he kept getting in trouble and kept putting in the back of the line. And then when he finally got to Jesus and Jesus said, please, throw all of your sins into the fire, and what burns away will be what is true. And the fire was so enraged and engulfed Jesus. And it was a comedy piece, but that was my first piece in writing. That was a screenplay. And then screenplays took over. And I thought screenplays were so much more easier to write. And I could accomplish many more stories in a shorter period of time. But I was still young, didn't realize I used others' companies' IPs. So when I would go and pay all this money, you go to screenwriting conventions out in LA, you have to pay for each table that you talk to, whether it's HBO, Lifetime, you have to pay to talk to these guys, like $15, $25 a table. And I would get there and they were like, we can't use that. That belongs to such and such. Can't use that, that belongs to such and such. And finally I was like, I'm not getting nowhere. So I decided to create my own independent property that could nobody say belonged to anybody. And that was where Jericho Bane, the story that I'm writing now, was born back in 2006. I go out of my way to make sure that my characters are black and featured up front on posters because we don't see that. If you go to the bookstores, we don't see us on the cover of books. When you lie in those great movie theaters, we're like, oh, Black Widow or oh, Ghostbusters. And once again, they're not us. And when we are represented, we are truly underrepresented. And when I think about that, I think about Ghostbusters. You have the 1980s version and the 2000 version that was brought up to date with the women. Great. All 3 white guys are world-class scientists, And the black guy, Winston, is like a garbage man or something like that being exposed. Fast forward years later, you now have the women's version doing it, and they're all scientists, and the black girl is a subway driver. You can't beat it. We always find ways that we're not utilized. And one of my greatest stories that I've ever read, of course, was Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. I just thought that was great, The Hobbit, and boom, it comes is now live. It's in the movies. They've got ghosts, goblins, dragons, underwater creatures, men from the south, hobbits, dwarves. In this vast world of everything you can have, including rock monsters, you don't have one black character. And I'm just like, are we so hated that we can't even be in a world of fantasy where everything exists? So that was also a catalyst to push that Jericho Bain remains majority black casted of my characters. There are not only gatekeepers in the publishing industry, or should I say the movie industry, there are even twice as more gatekeepers in the publishing industry. And I really thought I had an original concept, original idea, and every turn, no, and not what we're looking for, no. Hence, my Instagram name became 67 Rejections. Because at the 67th rejection, I was like, fine, I'll do it myself. And I remember one rejection, the guy was like, I love the premise, we love the story, are you married to this cover? And I said, well, of course I am. He said, it's so colorful. Now, I knew what he meant by his definition of colorful, but of course, I played coy. Oh, so what is it, too much orange? You need me to dial back, some of the red? He was like, you know what, this isn't gonna work. Thanks, but we're gonna pass. And so that was the point where I said, you know what, I will learn how to publish and I will put it out there myself. So I incurred all the expenses. I learned how to do it. Within 4 weeks, I was on the computer and I was publishing it myself. And I never looked back, and I never cared for anybody to publish it besides myself and my companies. That is a frustration, and that is the anger that drives us to excel and create our own. So, to all those who rejected me, I thank them because they gave me the power to step out on faith and do it myself. Not knowing where this money was going, if it was going to return. You have those self-doubts if I'm going to make it. And you tell yourself, yeah, why not? Why shouldn't I make it? Why shouldn't I be considered one of the greats like Tolkien or C.S. Lewis or any of those guys? Like, what are they doing that I'm not doing other than they got a break? I do get a lot of why this, why that, or and they automatically think that I've written something along the lines of like 50 Cent's Power. So when I say no, I actually wrote fantasy urban fiction. And I said mines entail, gods, destruction of buildings, humankind at their best, at their worst. And they're like, oh, this is a lot of pages. I'm like, it's a novel. Do you say that when you pick up J.K. Rowling's book? It's a lot of pages. You pick it up and you read. Why should I be any different? Read. Read, read, read. You will not be an effective writer if you do not read, because you have to find your voice that you want to write in. And I will say one of the smartest things I think Stephen King ever said, to be a great writer, you got to be an even greater reader. And that is so true. You have to know how to tell your story, know where you want your pauses at. And then, once you read it, read in your genre, read what you like. You know what I'm saying? Before you branch out, don't start everywhere at once, read what you like. Finish your story. Finish your story. Every day, there are days, of course, I don't feel like writing. So guess what? That day, I might not write my 200-word minimum. That day, I might write just one paragraph or one sentence, but I wrote. And then I'll make up for it later in the week. And sometimes when you fall into the groove, you're knocking pages out, boom, 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 boom. So you made up for the other days that you didn't put all that effort in. But the thing is, you're setting a time for you to write every day. And a new writer, just set 5 minutes to start off with. Don't go big. 5 minutes. Once you master 5 minutes of writing continuously without stopping, take it to 10 minutes. And over time, you will be at 2 to 3 hours and not even realize it. Those are my 3 biggest things for the writers. You know what I'm saying? Read, finish your story, and don't think you have to finish it right now. Take incremental time until you can build up that time to write 2 or 3 hour blocks if needed. Or my best writing time is in the morning. So around 6 in the morning, I'll write from 6 to 7. And then sometime when I get home in the evening, I might do 9 to 10. 2 hours. And mind you, half the time, that's just me correcting the 2 or 3 paragraphs before I start of writing. But just keep moving and don't stop. So my next project, Jericho's Bane, I've got 3 books down. Book 4, I'm going to start next year. Now that book 3 is slated to be released at the end of the year, that's bought me some time. So, inspiration was by Tuskegee Ayers over here. You know, he inspired me to say, hey, I want to do a space opera. So I'm going to leave fantasy for a while and do a space opera. And, of course, all black. I have never yet to date seen an all-black command crew, 1, flying their own ship, and 2, taking on alien entities. Never have I seen that. So that's what I want to see, so that's what I'm going to create. And it's called Give 'em Hell, the 54th. And I've taken the 1865 troops of the 1st Union Black soldiers, and I've updated the 2257. And I put them on their first spaceship, and they're going to have an adventure out past Saturn that teleports them 7 billion light years away. Well, they will be the first to have contact with alien species. My books can be found at arrowjknight.com and also on Amazon under Jericho's Bane. And that's where my books currently are. And on my website, I keep up to date of my next location where I'm going to be signing books and selling books. Publisher, definitely your own editor, because you have to edit what you publish. That is painstakingly very slow and methodical. So I am writer, editor, graphics. Okay, I do the graphics of the books, move them around myself. So at least 3 to 4 hats for self-publishing. And then you gotta talk marketing. So I gotta put on the marketing hat. I have to talk influencers, so I gotta hit social medias, Instagram, Facebooks, a couple YouTube channels. So it gets pretty intense. But those are the hats that you wear when you're promoting and marketing your own self. You just have to, everything else, just have to make time for it. Because all of this is done while I'm still raising a family. I still work a day job, and I'm currently in school as well, finishing up my master's degree and working clinicals. And it's just, if you want something, you make time for it. And like from the book, The Alchemist, I truly believe this. When you want something that you truly want in your heart, all the universe conspires to come together to help you achieve it. You can't leave God out of the equation. It took full circle for me to come back when my parents instilled in me in the beginning, but eventually I came back. And there is a season for everything. I've definitely learned that. Jericho Bane has not been in season for 8 years. After the pandemic, it's now my season. Everything has come together by just divine providence. The team that I have has come together. The artists that I have has come together. And I asked God, I want to sell out for the first time at one of these Comic Cons. It's day 2, midday, and I was sold out completely.